Hi everyone, welcome to this Noddy Networker quick tip. Today we're going to be looking at how you scale a location map within the Meridian editor. We're going to be working with the HPE Aruba Meridian editor, a sample app maker app, and the iOS-based Aruba Beacons app. In this session, we'll start by demonstrating the importance of scaling your location map, and we'll show you some of the typical issues created by incorrect scaling. And we'll finish by showing you how to correctly configure the scale of your location map in the Meridian editor. So exactly why do we need to scale the location map? Well, there are two main reasons. Most importantly, if you're going to be using the wayfinding functionality in your Meridian-based mobile app, then you need to scale the location map correctly in order to provide the accurate wayfinding instructions for your app users. Otherwise, the directions provided by the system will likely be incorrect, misleading, or just confusing, resulting in a poor user experience. And secondly, if you enable and use the Show Beacon Signal option within the Aruba Beacons app, this is normally used during the beacon deployment, then the tool is really only useful when the map is correctly scaled. Otherwise, you'll find that the information provided by the tool is of little or no real benefit to the engineer. Okay, so here's our sample application in the Meridian editor. And it's very simple. If we go and take a look at the maps, this is the level that we'll be dealing with here, this noddy level. We'll look at the place marks. And we can see it's a very simple map. And we have one point of interest, and it's called finish. And there's nothing else in this particular application. So let's take a look at the routing information. And that's equally simple. You just see a simple route across the map. And that's pretty much it for the sample application. So let's close that down and actually take a look at that application running on, in this case, an iOS device. So this screen is showing my iPhone, and it's running the app viewer, and it's running that same Meridian application we just looked at. So let's have a look at the map at the bottom. We hit the map option, and as expected, we get a blue dot because there are a couple of beacons defined on this map. And if this was a typical user, sort of thing that we're likely to do is hit the search button and try and find somewhere that we want to go to. In this case, we know there's only one place, and that's called finish. So there's finish, so we're going to find finish. And there's our finish information. And we can get, of course, directions to here. So that's exactly what we're going to do. That's what we want to do as a user. And there we go. We have our directions. And it's indicating that, well, it's about 70 meters or so away across the room. Now, the difficulty here, and the problem, in fact, is that in reality, this installation and this map is incorrectly scaled. The scale should be around, well, it's around 20 meters along the length of the room. So obviously, directions showing 50, 60 meters are of no use at all. The other thing you may notice is that the blue dot is in fact moving around quite a substantial amount. And although my iPhone is in fact quite stationary, again, that's another symptom of the scaling of this map being incorrect. The small motions that are inherent in the system are getting amplified by the incorrect scaling, resulting in the blue dot moving around far more than would be expected. Okay, let's finish with that. Okay, now let's show you the other issue with incorrectly scaled maps. That's when we actually go to deploy the beacons themselves. We use an application called the Aruba Beacon app. So let's run that one up. And that's this application in the corner. Okay, so here's our noddy building and the noddy level that we were working at, and here's our blue dot as before, but this time we have beacons showing on the beacon app. There's one at the top around near the finish, and there's one in the opposite corner giving the blue dot wayfinding. Now, one of the tools available to us when we actually deploying these beacons is the signal level that's being observed by the device. So if we use the option in the corner, the eye, we can set various options on this application, and the interesting one, and the one that we often set when we're deploying beacons, is show beacon signals. You see it there. It's not set at the moment. So let's set that option. There it is, and we'll close it out. And it is now showing the signals from the beacons, but in fact very difficult to see any difference from the earlier display before the signal level option was turned on. And that's the issue. In fact, but only because I happen to know, if we zoom in into a beacon, that's the beacon near the finish here, we can start to see that in fact the app is showing the beacon level, the signal level, and there it is. It's just that that level is being scaled against the map scale, and because that's incorrect, it really is of no use in this particular installation as a deployment tool, because as we know, this map should represent, well, around 20 meters square, let's say, and in this instance the signals should be highly visible in the tool, but because of the incorrect scaling, when we actually bring the map to a reasonable working size, in fact the signals are no longer visible. And so really it's of no use, and it's very misleading to the engineer. So we've shown you the typical issues and symptoms of an incorrectly scaled map on the various applications. So now let's run through how to scale a location correctly. And it's worth noting the location map is not scaled when it's sent for conversion, even if there is scaling information available on the map. In fact, the location map is scaled using the Meridian editor. The editor uses control points to calculate map size. By aligning a map's control points with the Google Maps satellite image of the same location, the editor can calculate the sizing for the Meridian-powered app's location and wayfinding features. The instructions for setting the scale are detailed in the Meridian Editor online help. To illustrate the process, let's now scale the map in our sample application and rerun our previous tests to show the effect. So let's switch to the Meridian editor. So here's our sample location. And we're going to firstly select maps. Select the map that we're interested in. It's the noddy level again. And we're going to click on the edit button. Next, we're going to select the edit control points. In the location field, we're going to enter our map's location address. And select it. Now we can zoom in find our location, and we hit the place markers here. We then align the markers to our building. In this case, small part of this building. And we adjust the markers on our map. And then to save that information, I typically select the Maps button again, just to check that information is now there. Look at it. Back to the edit control points. And we can see that the points now align and the scale has been set for this particular application. To be totally sure, I typically save the whole app again. Back to our app on the iOS device. We'll run through the same tests as we did previously, but now with the correctly scaled map. We'll search for our point of interest again. Finish. And we'll get directions. But this time the directions are sensible. We can see that it's around 10 meters to the destination, as opposed to the 60 or 70 that we had previously. Okay, so let's open our Beacon app. And we'll set the beacon signal to be shown again. But this time, as you can see, we have far more interesting information enabling us to correctly position our beacons when we deploy them and check the deployment is behaving as expected. We can see the signal levels from each of the beacons deployed. There we go. And that concludes this session. Thanks for listening to the Noddy Networker. Hope you found it useful. See you soon.